The stables here on the Badminton estate are world famous, and I'm lucky enough to have Jane Holderness Roddam showing me around. Jane, you're an absolute icon here at Badminton. You've won twice. The first time was 50 years ago this year. I bet a lot's changed about the competition.
Well, it certainly has, yes. Looking back, it's amazing really to think that, you know, from those small, fairly small beginnings then, and of course it had already been going about 20 years then, how much it's changed now. There were 10,000 people, I think. The papers said there were about 10,000 people, and of course now there are about nearly just 200,000 people or something. So just the sheer size of it all has grown so much.
And that must feel so different for you coming here now compared to back then.
Oh well, it does, because everything's so much more professional and smart, and you know, it was a lot easier in my day to move around. A lot of the course wasn't strung. There were people all over it. You never knew whether a child in a pram was going to be in front of you just as you were approaching a fence, or what was going to happen. But now it's you know, it's a very well organised event.
And if you don't mind me asking, how much was the prize money when you won the first time?
Well, that's the big thing, of course. It's changed tremendously. 350 quid.
Oh my goodness!
50 years ago, and now it's 100 and something thousand. So it's amazing.
So a lot has changed about the competition itself, but the stables have hardly changed at all. We're going to go and have a look round in a minute, but is it nice to have all that history? It's really seeped in history, isn't it, this
it's
competition?
Wonderful, because so much of it hasn't changed, and yet such a lot has. Yes, everything about it is still that tradition. And it's wonderful to just come and walk through the stables and think, gosh, that, you know, I had a horse in that stable and another horse in that stable. Although I never did it as many times as a lot of other people did, because I was nursing. It's great to go back and just have all those wonderful memories.
Because a lot of the riders here now are professional riders, aren't they? But you were a nurse, like you say, weren't you, when you won?
Yes, I was. I was training at the Middlesex Hospital in London, and the only reason I was able to ride here was when I was on night duty the first time, when I won in '68, and you had 7 nights on and then you had 4 days off. So I managed to get my matron to understand what I was wanting and needed those 4 days off at the particular to cover the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it was amazing.
Oh my goodness. And how did you juggle the nursing with all your equestrian sport as well?
Well, I was very lucky with my sister, Jenny Lauriston Clark, who looked after our Nobby and kept him going. And I used to go down. We had very good hours at the Middlesex Hospital. You could almost have 24 hours off in between a morning session one day and then an afternoon session the other day. So I could whiz down to Brockenhurst in the New Forest, where I was then, and ride him in the morning and come back and again in the afternoon, so the following afternoon. So I was very lucky to be able to do all that.
Of course, and you're a Badminton local, aren't you, Jane? And you told me a fantastic story earlier about actually hacking your horse here. Tell the viewers at home about that.
Well, that was another occasion really, because I had a horse with who always had a permanently filled hind leg, and you have to pass a vet's inspection before they're allowed into the stables. So I actually rode her over here, which is about 3.5 miles. And by the time I got here, the leg had gone down, so the vet was quite happy with her, but I don't think he would have been if he'd seen her when she started off.
That's fantastic. But most of the time you actually kept your horses here in the stables while you were competing.
Yes, no, we did. And you certainly have to. And that is Mark Todd going past there.
Toddy interrupting our interview. Thank you for that. But how does it feel going to the stables now? Is it do you still sort of get that feeling inside?
You get that amazing feeling, you know, and you almost feel you still want to do it. But of course, I'm way past that now.
Oh,
but it's wonderful to watch all these riders and the expertise, because now everything is so much more professional. They have to do these skinny fences. We had none of that in my day. Certainly not in '68. You just jumped big bold fences and just kept going really. But of course we had the roads and tracks and steeplechase, which made up much more of an endurance competition in that way. But we didn't have any of the technicality of today. And
I was going to say, and how do you feel the competition's changed without that roads and tracks element of the cross country?
Well, it has changed. It's less of the endurance in some ways, but nowadays they actually have to be so on the ball throughout, and you could get away. You could have a little rest between the fences in my day. well, not so much at the end, but certainly in the 60s, you could just gallop and let the horses get into a rhythm and breathe normally in between the fences, but that's much more difficult. So I think they need a different type of fitness nowadays, which is, the whole thing is much more high-powered.
And if you could choose to ride a course then or now, 50 years ago, the course where you won, or this course now this weekend, which one would you choose?
Oh, I'd definitely choose way back then, because it was such fun going out on the roads and tracks and chatting to all the competitors coming back on Phase C, which was the second part after they'd done the steeplechase. It was much more friendly and more fun. And you were out there for an hour and a half, whereas now, of course, it's all over that in 12 minutes, basically. So from that point of view, it was much more fun. But nowadays, it's much more professional, there's no question. And I really admire all the riders of today.